Want to get right to the first presenter here. You saw a little bit about each one of them, but Annie Montgomery Labatt, the Director of Galleries and Museums and Associate Professor of Visual Arts at Sweetbriar College in Virginia. She taught at UTSA in the Department of Art History from 2013 to 2018, got her PhD from Yale, her undergrad from Barnard, went to high school at St. Mary's Hall. The recipient, did we just get a shout out for St. Mary's Hall, dude? All right. She was the recipient of a 2-year Rome Prize, a junior fellow at Dumbarton Oaks Research Library, a Chester Dale Fellow at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. She is working on 3 books, including the forthcoming Art History 101 Without the Exams, with Trinity University Press. Please give it up to the one and only Annie Montgomery Labatt.
Hi. Okay. Here we go. I am a Byzantinist. This means that I get to study and teach monuments like this 6th century church called San Vitale, a complex web of columns and marble piers, ambulatories and arcades intentionally and mysteriously obfuscate our view and draws us in, calls us closer. Byzantium may seem like an obscure topic, or worse, academic, but the Byzantine Empire lasted 1,000 years and spread all across Asia Minor, Greece, North Africa, and into Italy, which is where this church is situated, in Ravenna. More importantly, I want to argue that studying Byzantium and art history can be significant to how we see what is around us every day in our contemporary San Antonio. We're looking at paradise. Wispy red and blue clouds hover against a bright golden sky, while an emerald landscape below teems with life. To the left is a panel with Emperor Justinian here, who appears in the middle. He worked so hard to expand the empire into Italy. He's preceded by religious figures on the right and followed by brilliantly colored, outfitted soldiers. Although he paid for the church, he never was there, nor was his wife, Empress Theodora, who appears across the space of the church. She wears imperial purple and an elaborate crown with dripping, fluorescing pearls and rows of jewels. She carries a golden paten, and 3 golden magi, little men, line the hem of her dress. The Byzantine Empire isn't something we should know about because it's big and important with lots of land and power. We should know about it and about its art because when we do, we are learning about the people of our past, about humanity, about a community, and one that might make us think about our community. The closer we look, the more we see. We can think of the fingers and the hands that worked so hard, that placed the cubes of glass and gold into the mortar ever so carefully at jutting angles so as to catch the flickering light of the candles nearby. We can think of the eyes that watched these mosaic eyes come to life. We can think of the eye of visitors marveling at the mosaics from the 6th century to today. Simple little variegated cubes of stone and glass. They're called tessera, which means 4 in Greek because they have 4 sides. What a marvel that these little meaningless pixels combine to form an image, to establish the presence of an empire, to make an empress, and inspire us to contemplate what makes us. These medieval tessera cubes are very much like the large gem-colored glass tessera that beautifully color the light as it traverses thick gray walls and spills into the space of the chapel designed by Ellsworth Kelly that opened just over a year ago in Austin. We have a mosaic masterpiece of our own here in San Antonio, the Long Frieze by Juan O'Gorman. The mosaic, which is made up of 1.2 million pieces of stone and glass, was commissioned for the World's Hemisphere in 1968 by Flora Creighton, who sadly passed away last month. Like Theodora and Justinian, Juan O'Gorman's figures process solemnly towards a central point, making visual the title, A Confluence of Civilizations. Individuals from the Hispanic culture walk from the left to meet Anglo figures coming from the right. This procession, its composition, and its placement might remind us of the figures on another monument, which is the Parthenon. Like Juan O'Gorman's frieze, which sits atop a series of column-like shapes, the frieze of the Parthenon also sits above a series of columns. Both buildings have pediment shapes at the top, although the Athenian pediments are currently housed at the British Museum in London. That's that triangular shape at the top. Also housed in the British Museum are the sculpted friezes, which show somberly moving men and women. Just like the Athenians themselves, these sculpted devotees slowly walk in a procession in honor of Athena. These columnar bodies would have elegantly mirrored the fluted columns of the building below. The carvings of pious and thoughtful individuals contrasted sharply with the ill-behaved figures also on the Parthenon, the centaurs, half man, half horse. This image shows a Lapith, the mythological people with whom the Greeks associated, fighting off one of the centaurs who came to the party, drank too much, and then started chasing all of the women. It is this very scene that we have here at Sama, in the Greek and Roman wing, as part of the collection amassed by Gilbert Denman. Women are fleeing, centaurs are grabbing, Lapiths are stabbing, spears aloft. How awesome that we can make big art historical links in ways that bring us back to San Antonio. One of my favorite spots to play art history is in the library at Trinity University with the staircase mural by James Sickner, created in 1979. Sickner's work creates another confluence of civilizations in an imaginative collage. Emperor Augustus stands next to Abraham Lincoln. Alice's white rabbit looks towards an Aztec deity. A statue of the Buddha sits on top a panel with Arabic script. Everywhere we look, these connections are available and enriching. The statue in 1907, which was cast in 1907, which balances on top of the Via Transit Center station, once the Mopac Depot, references the elegant huntress Diana, cast by Auguste Saint Gaudens in 1893, which is at the Met. Landmarks that we know all too well take on a richer and deeper set of meanings. The Alamo, on the right, responds and relates to the 4th century triumphal arch of Constantine, a declaration of power and protection. The better we look, the better we see. By stretching those muscles of observation, our world takes on a new hue. The funky, flaring shapes at the top of the Sama towers came from monuments like the 13th century walls surrounding the Italian city of Gradara, which is incidentally minutes from Ravenna, the site of San Vitale, the church with which we started. Sama and San Vitale are blocky, made of brick, and punctuated with arched windows. Our landmark and a 6th century Italian one. They seem so different, and yet both protect our mosaics, our culture, our heritage. Becoming aware of these art historical connections helps us create visual associations, but also deeper ties within our community. The more we learn how to look, the more we are aware not only of our shared cultural history, but also of the shared space that is our San Antonio. Thank you.
Can't leave.
Okay.
All right. All right, you can't leave. This is the part where I get to ask you, here, why don't you stand in the light over here so people can see you. I get to ask you a few embarrassing personal questions, or just about the program here. First of all, you're of the well-known San Antonio Labatts?
I am a Labatt.
A Labatt. And for those people that don't know, who might wonder, how did a Labatt from San Antonio wind up in Rome and Barnard and the Met? Tell them a little about Labatts. Your family.
I have a wonderful family. My mother and father are here, and my brother is too. And they're great.
Okay. Did you, I'll just leave it at that. Growing up in San Antonio, did you know you wanted to get into art? And what sparked your interest in Byzantium and moving away from San Antonio, at least, for a while?
Right. Well, I always was interested in medieval art, but actually I was a ballerina for a while. So I traveled around doing ballet and got excited about thinking about traveling beyond, going to Italy and things like that. So I fell into a position working at the Metropolitan Museum of Art on a show called Byzantium, Faith and Power, and I got hooked.
And now the books, you're working on 3 books, aside from the Art History 101. What are all those?
That's right. One is my dissertation that's now into a book about 8th and 9th century medieval Rome, not the Dark Ages, far brighter than people think. And then another one about Byzantine Rome, so-called Byzantine Rome. So a nice little book.
And now Art History 101, Why
Right.
is it important for you to explain art history? I took art history 101.
Yeah.
And I remember the Stele of Hammurabi. All right, anybody
Sure
else?
you do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, give it up for the Stele.
It's the oldest law. Yeah, there you go.
And how do you make that interesting to a larger audience? I have a calendar that I do with my kids of places Daddy dragged us. And the Metropolitan Museum of Art is one of those places, and the museum here.
Yeah.
How do you get people pumped aside from the people who are already here?
Well, I mean, I think that the art speaks for itself, but I do think it's really fun to make those associations with the things that we see every day. After I took my first art history class and went to look at the Alamo, I was so excited to see columns and capitals, and it starts to have those associations. So really the fact that the things we take for granted start to take on a new hue, and that's a beautiful thing.
And now after this, people wonder, okay, you're working at the Met, you're doing 3 books. What down the road are you going to be doing?
I love working in museums and I love teaching, so we'll just see what happens from here.
And when is your book coming out, your first book?
Well, the Trinity University Press book should be coming out very soon, so we're getting into proofs, which is very exciting, and my editor is here, so yay.
Okay, give it up for the editor. Thank you very much,
Thank
Annie
you.
Labatt.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.